Heard about this thing called home milling, or maybe you've heard of these crazy weirdos out there that are milling their own grains and baking their bread and actually not jumping on the bandwagon that grains are the evil of evils. Or maybe you have decided to go against the grain and actually start milling your own grains, but maybe you need a little bit of a pep talk, because in this video, I'm going to be telling you why you should be milling your own grains at home, and frankly, why everyone should be consuming real whole grains. Yes, I said everyone should be milling their own grains, or at least consuming real whole grains. And now let the carnivore and keto people come out to crucify me, because in this video, I'm going to be giving y'all 5 reasons why you should be milling your own grains at home and consuming those wonderful, beneficial whole grains. Hey y'all, welcome back to Grains and Grit. My name is Felicia, and on this channel, guess what? You guessed it. We talk all things real whole grains, but from a biblical perspective. So I do teach you how to be milling your own grains, how to be baking delicious breads, why you should be consuming real whole grains, and more, because there's a lot of confusion out there when it comes to grains. And especially right now, it's January and everyone has going on a diet on their mind. And so I know right now, everything's probably shooting up in Google, searching for carnivore and keto diets and all of those things. And the one thing that all of these diets have in common is that grains are the evil of all evils. And they're not. So I'm actually going to be giving you 5 reasons in this video of why you should be milling your own grains at home and consuming those delicious whole grains. And yes, I said everyone. Now, before we begin, if you are completely new to this concept, let me explain to you what milling your own grains means. And what I mean is we have grain mills now that we have at home, and it's where you take whole wheat berries or the whole grain and you actually mill it, creating your own flour for yourself. This was a concept I didn't know about till I was in my 20s. But yes, it's how people have been doing it for thousands of years. It's just taking the wheat berry, whether it's spelt, kamut, hard white, einkorn, whatever, and you're just milling it and making your own flour at home instead of buying flour at the store or buying the bread at the store. So hopefully cleared that up there. So reason number 1 of why you should be milling your own grains at home is because, well, you can't actually buy real bread or real flour at the store. Nope. And again, I did not know this until my late 20s. I had grown up eating your typical bread that you buy at the store and not actually knowing or understanding the fact that that was actually real bread. That is the bread that I absolutely agree with the carnivore and keto people about, that you should not be eating. And we will unpackage this as we go on in this video. But that bread is actually fake. Yeah, it's the bread and the flour are made from wheat. However, all the beneficial nutrients pretty much have been stripped. It has been stripped so much that they actually have to add in a few nutrients in just so we don't all die of pellagra and beriberi, which were epidemics back when they started giving us white flour. But bottom line is you just can't buy it in the store. You go to Walmart, you go to Publix, Kroger's, Winn-Dixie, wherever you go in to buy groceries, you're not gonna find real bread in the store. Yeah, I know you might find Ezekiel bread, but still not the same that you get whenever you actually mill your own grains at home. Whenever you actually buy those wheat berries or whatever whole grains that it is and actually make your own flour with a grain mill at home. This is a huge reason why people have gluten sensitivities these days. It's because we've pretty much grown up consuming a flour that is nothing but gluten and starch. And then on top of that, they then take this dead flour, they make bread to sell it to you in the stores, and it's nothing but gluten, starch, and they add in extra gluten to it and like the preservatives and all of those things. And it's just created a huge mess. But don't be like carnivore and keto people where they tend to throw out the baby with the bathwater. Which leads to reason number 2 of why you should be milling your own grains at home. And that is because God designed grains. He created grains to be consumed whole. He did not give us a highly refined white flour product for us to eat. He actually created grains that can be grown and harvested by man and for us to actually consume whole, because it's a lot of extra work to actually create a highly refined white flour type product. That's why for thousands of years, humanity has pretty much been eating whole grains. And it wasn't until the past 100 years or so that that white flour has now become available to the masses. So I'm going to repeat this over and over in this video because I want it to sink into people's heads. But basically that gluten sensitivities, most of them come from the fact that people are not consuming gluten in its proper form, which is consuming grains in their whole grain form, whether it's the whole grain flour or even whole grains without even milling them and you consuming them whole. And yes, even the celiacs can consume whole grains, and they should be consuming whole grains because there's plenty of grains out there that are completely gluten-free, and even celiacs should be consuming this for a reason that we will get to later. But let's sticking with this, as God created whole grains to be consumed in their whole grain form. And as I said, for thousands of years, humanity has been consuming whole grains, and it was only the wealthy that were wealthy enough to not only lose about 25% of their crop from taking out the bran and the germ and creating white flour, but they were also the only ones wealthy enough to have servants to be sifting the flour all day to create a more white, fluffy flour. Which brings us to reason number 3, why you should be milling your whole grains, and that is because that grains are actually a superfood. Yes, I said superfood. This is something that people are not saying these days, and it's driving me crazy because grains are so nutrient dense, okay? They are a superfood and, dare I say, more nutritious than fruits and vegetables. Yep, I said it. Despite how much the carnivore and keto people are screaming at everyone that grains are killing us all, that's just not true. White flour and white bread is what is bad for you, not grains, not whole grains. Otherwise, humanity would have died off a long time ago, y'all. So do not get confused with, the fake bread from the store and the actual real whole grain. It's pretty much saying that you've consumed nothing but peanut M&Ms and then blaming the peanut for all of your health problems. So what makes grains superfoods? First of all, is wheat actually contains the highest amount of vitamin E that you will find anywhere. That wheat germ, which the germ is what is part of what is sifted out to create white flour, and it also is the part that is oxidized first. So within 3 days of a wheat berry being cracked open or milled into flour, oxidation occurs, and just within 3 days, 96% of nutrients have been oxidized. And that vitamin E is the very first to go. And y'all, that vitamin E is so crucial to so many things. And wheat germ beats the tar out of any other food when it comes to vitamin E. According to the National Institute of Health, which not a huge fan of, but that's beside the point. They do have certain facts. And a fact remains that the vitamin E that you find in wheat germ is 135% of the daily recommended value. Second place doesn't even come close. Second place of highest amount of vitamin E found in any food group, whether it's plant or animal food group. Second place is actually sunflower seeds, coming in at only 49% of the daily value that is recommended of vitamin E that we should be consuming as adults. So 135%, 49%. And that 135% can only be found whenever you are actually consuming those wheat berries in its whole grain form right off the bat, or you have milled your grains fresh, baked them to lock in that vitamin E to consume it. So even if you buy flour that has been milled and you are still receiving a whole grain flour, y'all, within just 3 days of it being milled, 96% of those nutrients are lost and you are not receiving the full benefit of that vitamin E. That is found milling it here at home fresh. And I cannot say that enough. The other reason why grains are superfoods is the amount of fiber that comes with grains. Pretty much no matter what grain you have, whether it's the gluten-free grains, the ancient grains, the modern grains, wheat, corn, rice, whatever it is. If it's a whole grain, they are typically a power punch when it comes to fiber. And considering that colon cancer is one of the top 5 deadly or most diagnosed cancers in the US, yeah, fiber is a big deal. Think of all the people who have digestive issues, all of those things. And it's that fiber that's in the wheat that helps you digest and break down that gluten so you don't have any digestive issues. So it's a huge big deal. And we all need a lot of fiber in our diet to keep things moving well. Also, whole grains are usually power punches when it comes to your B vitamins. I know with wheat berries, it contains all of the B vitamins. In fact, whenever white flour became available for the masses back in roughly the 1920s here in the United States, and they had removed that bran and germ, 2 diseases skyrocketed, and that was pellagra and beriberi, which are B vitamin deficiencies. That's why 2 B vitamins are put back into the flour, because it was a true pandemic, epidemic, whichever one that is, of people just really getting sick because now they were B vitamin deficient. Your B vitamins are very important for your mental health and so many things. And grains is one of the best sources for all of those B vitamins. Overall, wheat in and of itself contains 40 out of 44 essential nutrients that you need to live. There's a reason why Jesus compared himself to the bread of life, why bread is called the staff of life, because you can pretty much survive on whole grains. Wheat, 40 out of 44 nutrients, so they're only slightly deficient in 4, that's vitamin A. So eat you some carrots, eggs, those type of things. Vitamin D, go out in the sun, no sunscreen, you'll be fine. And then vitamin C, get you some citrus. There are many things that contain vitamin C. And lysine, so eat you some beans. But bottom line, if you're eating a well-balanced diet, you're gonna be just fine. Grains are gonna be where most of those nutrients come from. So a little bow to add on this whole grains are a superfood is just to touch a little bit on the whole like grains make you fat type argument. Grains are a superfood. Whole grains are a superfood mainly for these reasons. And one is the fiber that I mentioned. Whenever you consume a good amount of fiber, you are full. You're satisfied and you're actually going to eat less. The reason why people overconsume with bread is because they're consuming white flour. It's just nothing. There's nothing there to tell their body that they are satisfied and that they are actually full. So with whole grain bread, you actually consume less because you're actually satisfied and full. And then also with all of the beneficial nutrients that come with whole grains, that means your cells are being nourished. And that means that you are actually truly satisfied. Your body truly has been fed, which is going to limit your cravings for your sweets and all those little snacky things. If you find yourself always like, I feel like I'm missing something and I need to eat something and you're not sure what, that's usually your body telling you, we are missing something, find it. Okay. And I know for me personally, whenever I am making sure that I have a regular diet of whole grains, those cravings for sweets, the need to snack and all of that, it goes away because my body is actually satisfied. And that's why grains are such a powerful superfood. Now, reason number 4 of why everyone should be consuming whole grains and milling from home. And that is because grains have been sustaining humanity for thousands of years and actually since the beginning. And this is where I go head to head with the evolutionist out there because I'm a Bible believing Christian and I do believe my Bible, that we were created by a God from day one and he placed us in a garden and gave us every herb bearing seed and plants to eat. So we first started off in a garden. Okay, now we messed it up, got kicked out of the garden. But even then the Bible says that Cain was a tiller of the ground. And part of the curse was that we had to work hard and there were now going to be thorns and thistles in the ground when we grow things. So despite that hunter-gatherer mindset, that's an evolutionary based mindset. I do not believe it at all because I know for a fact that with the Bible, that from the Bible that God says that he created us and he placed us in a garden. He created all the foods for us to eat. And that even after the fall, we were still gardeners, okay? We did also have animals, but we were still eating plant-based food. And in fact, it's not until after Noah and the flood that we see where God said, okay, now eat meat. Okay, so it was a while that we were a plant-based diet. Now we're eating meat. The flood changed everything. So I completely reject the hunter-gatherer mentality because we have been farmers from the very beginning. We have been consuming grains from the very beginning since we were created, and they were created for our good. And also just look back on history. Civilization was possible when agriculture became a thing. Whenever we were able to actually grow our own food, and because of agriculture, that especially world empires were able to happen. Egypt thrived because of agriculture. Ancient Egypt thrived because of agriculture. And any other type of big civilization, y'all, they weren't gonna feed an army as a hunter-gatherer. They would deplete all the resources, and that was also massive amounts of people. We need grains to sustain, because grains can store for a long period of time if stored well, and they are very nutrient-dense food, and they really fill up those bellies and feed people well. I referred to the story of Joseph in the Bible. This is in the book of Genesis, right at the beginning in the Bible. And we see that a really bad 7-year famine came upon the world at that time. And we see that Joseph, I won't go through the story, but Joseph is now second in command in Egypt. He had been storing grains for 7 years because God had told him that there was a 7-year famine coming. Egypt stored up grains for 7 years. And then there were 7 years of famine, and the world was coming to Egypt to buy grains. And I find it interesting that we specifically see Joseph's family, who was back in Canaan land, that they stated, we have to go to Egypt to get grains lest we die. Now, we do also see they had cattle, they had fruit, they had honey, they had food. Okay, they had food, y'all, but they knew that if we don't get those grains from Egypt, we will die. So take that in your pipe and smoke it, carnivore, keto people. Okay, but it is what it is. Grains sustain humanity. This is why Jesus said he is the bread of life. Why we have so many references in the Bible to bread, because everyone knew that that was food. God said to the Israelites, if you follow me, I will bless your bread. Okay, why do you spend money on that which is not bread? We see in Isaiah. We see it over and over again. And Jesus said that I am the bread of life. Okay, not the meat of life, not the broccoli of life, not the chicken of life, the bread of life, because that is what sustains people physically. But now we also need the spiritual bread of life, which is Jesus Christ. All right, so last but not least, reason number 5 that you should be milling your own grains, consuming whole grains is, well, it's delicious. Okay, you probably have never had a real piece of bread in your life if you've never had one from 100% freshly milled wheat. And I'm telling you, y'all, game changer. Okay, that bread from the store has no flavor. Okay, I don't care how much butter and cheese you add on it. It is not flavorful until you actually consume bread made from real whole grains, or just whole grains in general, whether that be brown rice instead of white rice. There's so much flavor. And that's the thing, is God created food for us to enjoy, not only to sustain us, because we need food to live, but he also wanted us to enjoy the food that he has given us. And grains are an amazing, there is so much variety in grains. Again, whether it's gluten-free or has gluten, or, you know, it's ancient grain, modern, whatever it is, every civilization has some sort of grain that they are known for, some sort of bread, something that they are known for, and that's for a reason, and that is for our good. Y'all, I've never had a child decline bread. Okay, I have dealt with picky eaters when it comes to broccoli or Brussels sprouts, but I have never had a toddler turn down bread. Okay. So I'm just saying, and that makes me feel good as a mother, because I know that, well, they are getting fed very, very well, a superfood. So they will be eating broccoli at some point, but I don't have to stress out about it, because I know that they're getting a good amount of nutrition. And the world of grains means it goes with whatever meal that you want. Eggs, toast, we have waffles, you know, any sort of cooking, there's always some sort of grain to go with it, whether it be corn or rice or quinoa or amaranth. The world of grains is so incredibly amazing, and really shows the diversity and creativity of the Creator God, who loves us so much to give us these amazing foods. So let me know in the comments below. I want to hear from you. Why do you mill your wheat? Why do you think you should mill your wheat? And especially those who might disagree with me, bring it on, my friends. I will certainly love to talk to you in the comments. And for those of you who may be wanting to start your milling journey, well, you need a grain mill first. Check out this video where I help you choose a grain mill, and maybe you've already started your milling journey, but you need a really good recipe to kickstart you. And I do recommend my simple sandwich, my simple yeast loaf bread recipe that you can find here. Excellent recipe for beginners to start you off. As always, I hope this video was helpful. I hope you'll have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next week. Bye.